1. I grew up in a house on Long Island in the town of Brentwood. It was a quiet town for its location. My dad worked as a taxi driver at the time, which meant he would usually end up coming home early in the morning, and I would greet him. So it's Saturday. I'm watching cartoons and my dad comes in, and I run to say hello. My mum hears us from the bedroom and says, "Hello honey, don't go into the pool, it's not ready yet." Me and my dad think, well, that's weird, it's 6 a.m, we weren't going to go in the pool. But we just brush it off, and he goes on and tells me his usual stories of the crazies he picks up throughout the night. We then realised it was Saturday, and my mum was at work, and it was only me and him in the house. But the voice sounded just like my mother. Fast forward a couple of weeks, we had just moved into the house, and my new neighbours come over to welcome us to town. It was 2 mothers, 2 sons, one my age and one a little older in the 10th grade, and 2 little girls, one blonde-haired girl and a shy brunette that didn't talk. We get to play some soccer, however, the little brunette girl is nowhere to be found. The curious little kid I was, I ran around the property, and I find her playing in the woods, a dangerous area for a little girl to be exploring. She asks me to come play tag, but I decline, wanting to get everyone in on the game. The reactions of everyone as I asked for them to join us was puzzling, along with a response from the mum. We only have one daughter. Turns out, a small brown-haired girl drowned in the pool 10 years ago. The mother soon passed from a heart attack. Number 2. About 10 years ago, at the age of 19, I was very good friends with a girl who was as interested in the paranormal as I was. She bought a Ouija type board called Psychic Circle. It had words, photos, symbols, and a book that told you how to interpret it. We never had much luck with it. One night, she took it over to her aunt's house, and they apparently had a really intense experience with it. Her aunt asked her to leave it for a few nights so she could use it on her own. Well, my friend left it, and we made plans to visit her aunt that weekend so we could all play together. So that Friday night, we head over in hopes of a good supernatural experience. As soon as I got in the car, I just had a feeling of dread. I've had a few brushes with paranormal stuff in the past, and the prospect wasn't frightening to me, but I just felt wrong about it. We get to her aunt's house, and her aunt pretty much seems to dislike me the second I walked in the door. The feeling of dread is even more intense once I got to the house. I just sort of brushed it off as paranoia, and tried to be friendly. My friend's aunt takes the board out of the box, and it looked really old, weathered like it had been left in the sun for a few years. The previously bright colours were faded and worn. My friend said, "What happened to the board?" and her aunt told her that it had been sweating. So, her aunt puts it on the table, looking at me with the utmost of suspicion. At this point, I felt absolutely terrified, and my palms are clammy and shaky. I put them on the oracle and her aunt says no. I take them off and she says, "They don't like you. They don't want to answer your questions. I can just tell." We leave very shortly after that. My friend is upset. She says that the whole episode was very out of character for her aunt. Her aunt refused to give the board back, and I wound up buying my own. No luck with that one either. I took it as a sign and gave it to some other friends. Number 3. There's an abandoned house next to mine. The previous owner moved out to California 25 years prior and never sold it. I got a flashlight and gloves and pushed the window open and went inside. starting with the basement. In the basement was a grand piano. It still played, but it was very much out of tune. And there was old World War II stuff, and what seemed to be a signed Elvis poster. There was some other really cool stuff that no one should ever leave behind. There's basically a whole story in that basement, including a broken wedding picture frame and instruments everywhere. On the main floor was an unmade bed, moulded food still in the fridge, and on the stovetop, half-empty beers turned solid, lights that still hadn't been turned off. Then I started walking upstairs, when I heard crying from one side of the room. That's when I freaked out, and I haven't been there since. Number 4. One day, while doing my laundry, one of the lights blew out in my basement. My basement is set up so that the laundry room is split from the other side of the basement, with a wall and a door. In order to get upstairs, you have to exit the laundry room and go through the other part of the basement. So, the light blew out in the other part, not the laundry room. As it was the only light on that side, it was pretty dark. I finished the laundry I had to do while dreading the walk through the dark basement. I exit the laundry room, get halfway through the basement, and I hear a loud cackle. Imagine a sound people make when they imitate a witch. Take that and imagine that the witch had been smoking for 50 years, making her voice deeper and hoarser. That is what I heard, clear as day, right behind me. I did not hesitate to bolt for the stairs. I waited until my father got home and then changed the bulb. I have yet to hear that cackle since, and I have not told a single person in the house about it. Number 5. I went to my friend Alison's house. She and her parents were at her soccer game, which I found out later. Her house was 3 lots down the street on the other side. The house had a 6-foot fence around the property, opening up to the driveway. Whenever she wasn't home, I would just wait for her in the backyard. Her swing set was so cool. So here I am swinging, waiting for Alison, having a great time. I am watching through their kitchen window, through the living room and out the front door, hoping to see her or her parents walk up to the front door. Then I saw it. A dark, slowly moving object, figure thing, move across the front room. The next few seconds seemed to last years. I am no longer swinging, still sitting on my favourite swing. I am no longer happy. Deathly afraid, I still watch this figure, holding my breath as it glides. No, no, no. The voice in my head shrieks as the pitch-black shadow stops. Panic is starting to set in my young mind. Holding perfectly still, I tell myself, intently watching as the figure starts to turn towards me. I see no face or any detail, but I feel it as it faces me. Definitely male, definitely full of hate. Every hair feels like it is standing on my head. Scared and not able to move, I tell myself this can't be real. It's all some waking dream. The thing starts moving towards me. I let out a loud gasp-like scream. It's almost like I can feel its intention. I am frozen by the hate I can feel. I look past the door to the kitchen, to the driveway. If that guy comes out of the door at me, I'll never make it past, I think. I look the other way towards the fence. That side doesn't open, but I can climb it. We always did that to get to the field. I've never climbed it great, but I can. Looking back at the window, I see the shadow man slide right through the window. I scream as I run towards the field, never looking back. I climb that fence the fastest I ever did. Falling off the top of the fence, I land on my back. I jump up and run as fast as I ever have in my life, back to my house. Upon entering my house, I run straight to my room and enter my closet. This is where I sat for the next 4 hours until my parents convinced me to come out and eat. To this day, I still get chills when I recall that stuff. Number 6. One night when I was 10, I was asleep in bed and was woken up by my bedroom door opening, and then someone sitting on my bed. I felt the graze on my leg and the bed sink as they sat. Thinking it was my mum having something to tell me, I opened my eyes, only to see a pale, eyeless, just black empty sockets boy, who seemed to be my age, sitting at the foot of my bed with his legs crossed, staring at me, or facing my direction, since he had no eyes. He then reached his hand towards me, and he was holding what looked like a little black box. I was freaked out. But as I reached to grab it, he hesitantly pulled back. I reached out further for it and said, "Give it." As I did so, I blinked, and by the time I reopened my eyes, he was gone. The spot of the bed where he was sitting lifted back into place, but the imprint of someone sitting there was still present. I told my mum in the morning, and she was slightly freaked, but assured me I was just dreaming. Fast forward 5 years, I had my boyfriend over to do homework. After homework, he took a nap while he waited for his parents to pick him up. When they arrived, I tried waking him to let him know. I nudged him, and he opened his eyes so sudden, already looking in the direction of the corner of the room, where the wall meets the ceiling, lifting his finger and pointing. As fast as he woke, he fell asleep again. I attempted to wake him up again. He came to full consciousness, and I asked him what the hell that was about and explained what he had just done. He said, "Oh, I thought I was dreaming. But up on that wall, I saw a little boy with no eyes, just there in a Spider-Man pose staring at me." That's when I freaked out and told him the story, for the first time, of when I saw and what I guessed was the same kid. Fast forward another 5 years, I'm still with the same boyfriend, and by this time we had a 2-year-old daughter. We were living in my old bedroom at my parents' house. My daughter would wake up at the same time every night and start talking. For a while, we thought it was just a normal baby thing, until I noticed it was almost the same conversation every night. I playfully asked her one night who she was talking to every night. She responded, "A little boy. He talks to me. He's nice. He's lost and looking for his mummy." I told my mum what happened the next morning, and before I got to tell her what I thought, she said, "I remember when that happened to you, then your boyfriend. I have no idea what it is. But then, neither my boyfriend or I have seen this little boy after our first encounter, but my daughter continued her nightly conversations until we got our own place that year." Number 7. This was several years ago when I lived with my then boyfriend's parents. They had a tri-level house with the basement that contained our living space and my boyfriend's and my bedroom. Upstairs was the living space for everyone else. the dining room and the kitchen. The third level had the master bedroom and 2 additional bedrooms for my boyfriend's sisters. I was home alone one night with his parents off with friends, my boyfriend at a friend's house, and his sisters were at an all-night church thing. I elected to stay home and play WoW all night. Where my computer and desk sat, right above my head was an AC vent. Often, I could hear his sister playing in her room from that vent. I was levelling my paladin or something when I heard laughing and giggling coming from the vent. Nobody was supposed to be home, so my heart picked up. I glanced at the clock on my computer and it read 1:36 a.m. I remember this all very distinctly. I went to go investigate and headed upstairs. The way the landing sits is at the top of the stairs. You can turn left and either go upstairs or go into the kitchen. I climbed the second set of stairs and opened the first door on the left, which was his younger sister's room, which is directly above the basement. Inside, I used the light of my phone to illuminate as best as I could. I saw a small figure, what I assumed was a small girl wrapped in a white sheet in the centre of the room. This figure, this young girl, stops playing with the dolls and slowly looks at me. I let out the most ear-shattering scream you can imagine. My skin crawls just thinking about it, and my chest tightens just remembering it. I wish I could tell you what transpired, but I remember waking up at the bottom of the landing, right next to the door of the kitchen. I stumbled into the kitchen to get a drink of water and contemplated what just happened. I glanced at the clock on the microwave. The clock read 4:46 a.m. We never found the sheet the next day, but the dolls the figure was playing with were sitting in the middle of the room, away from the toy chest which they were inside of that afternoon, which is located at the other end of the room.